My name is Samantha, and I'm 20 years old. I work at a Walmart in Jackson, Alabama, a small town. Since I'm not attending school full-time, my boss frequently assigns me to overnight shifts. This was back when the store was open 24 hours a day. It was a supercenter, so there were still a few employees working during these late hours, but the store was usually pretty quiet. I had a shift from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. that night, and I was one of the few employees working in the back doing stocking. There was 1 or 2 employees handling the registers at the front, but most of the store was empty at that time of night. Living in the countryside of Alabama, we didn't get many customers at these late hours, but it was an important time for restocking. So I kept busy. I didn't know the other employees working that night, but with the store being so large, we didn't run into each other much anyway. I started my shift folding pants in the men's department and organizing the shelves. I kept my headphones in since, as usual, there wasn't anyone around to tell me to take them out. At around 11:30 p.m., a customer came up to me while I was in the jeans section. He asked if we had any of the same pants he had found earlier, but in a different waist size. I told him that whatever was on the rack was all we had, and he thanked me before walking away. I made eye contact with him for a brief moment as he stood there putting the jeans back on the rack, but it was nothing out of the ordinary. He walked off, and I went back to my work. As the night wore on, the store became quieter and quieter. By about 1:00 a.m., I was working in the appliance section, moving boxes from the back storage area to the aisles to restock the shelves. Since the shelves were empty, I had a clear line of sight into the next aisle. That's when I noticed someone standing there, watching me. As soon as I looked up and saw him, he quickly looked away, but something about his face looked really familiar. I realized with a shock that it was the same customer who had spoken to me earlier in the jeans section. I couldn't believe it. How could he still be here after 2 hours and not have picked up a single item? I decided to get a closer look, so I walked past the aisle, trying to see if he had any shopping items in his hands. But his hands were empty. He hadn't bought anything at all. That made me uncomfortable. Something didn't feel right. I finished up my work in the appliance section quickly and went back to the employee lounge to try and shake off the unease I was feeling. I played on my phone for a while to calm down, but after a bit, I figured it was time to get back to work. I decided to move to a different area of the store and do some grocery stocking to put myself in a new part of the store, away from whatever weird vibe was coming from that man. I headed into the dairy cooler and started restocking milk and yogurt. It was a long, tedious process because I had to check the expiration dates on everything. As I was working, I heard the door to the dairy cooler suddenly burst open. There was a gap between some boxes I was stacking, and through that gap, I saw the same man from earlier standing there. I froze in panic. I quickly ducked behind one of the shelves and pushed a box of eggs in front of me, hoping he wouldn't see me. Luckily, the sound of the refrigerators running drowned out any noise I made, so I didn't have to worry about him hearing me. I waited there, crouched behind the box, hoping he would just leave. I stayed hidden for what felt like forever. I thought maybe he had given up and left, so I lifted my head slightly, just enough to peek out from behind the box. That's when I screamed. He was standing right there, smiling at me, his face just inches away from mine. His smile quickly disappeared as I screamed, and before I could do anything else, he tried to put his hand over my mouth to muffle my scream. I wasn't going to let him get that far. In a panic, I pushed the box of eggs right into him, causing them to spill everywhere. He stepped back, distracted by the eggs on the floor, and that gave me the chance to run. I didn't stop to look back. I just ran straight out of the cooler until I found another employee, Bob, who was working nearby. I quickly explained what had just happened, and not long after, the man from the cooler showed up. He apologized and claimed he was from corporate, coming to check on things in the store. He said he didn't mean to scare me and was just making sure I wasn't slacking off. Bob seemed to buy the whole story, but I wasn't so convinced. I asked the man why he had put his hand on my mouth, and he said he didn't want to make a scene. Then, shockingly, the man gave me the order to finish up the appliance section and quickly walked away, acting like nothing was wrong. I asked him his name, and he casually called back, "Tom," before disappearing down the aisle. The next day, I called my manager, Margaret, to ask if anyone from corporate named Tom was supposed to be visiting that night. She said that sounded completely unbelievable. There was no record of anyone named Tom, and there was no reason for someone from corporate to be in the store at 2 a.m. Margaret immediately checked the security footage, and once she reviewed it, she filed a police report. It turned out that this man had been following me around the store for hours. The cameras showed him lurking between aisles, watching me, and eventually entering the employee-only section. I told Margaret I couldn't do overnight shifts anymore, and she understood completely. I still work at the store, but now I do day shifts as a stock person or cashier. I haven't seen Tom again, and I hope I never do. That night still sticks with me, and I'm thankful that nothing worse happened, but I'm also more cautious now whenever I work those late shifts.